we all talk about the American dream, but there's some people that's what it is American dream. It's just a dream. But this young man right here, he's what I would like to consider a go-getter. He's putting his money where his mouth is, and he's out right now to make sure that he's helping people in his community to get reach their goals, especially during this tough time. Ladies and gentlemen, can I introduce you to the man, the myth, the legend, Rafael Hairston? Rafael, how you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing good. Thanks for having me. I appreciate you, Jels.
To be successful in YouTube, you should have started this maybe 10, 15 years ago. And I waited a very long time to start one. Now it's 20. As the time we're sitting down, it's 2021. And let's face the facts. Unless you're ABC, CBS, NBC, Fox News, a celebrity, The Rock, Kevin Hart, uh, Steven Crowder, you name the guy who thinks he's a boxer now because what's his name? Unless you're one of those guys, you're not going to get 400 million subscribers. You have to really hustle.
Yeah.
Like I said, some people will just wait, but you didn't wait. You went out right at a young age and started creating a business. So tell
Yeah.
us a little about that.
Yeah. I think early on, I mean, even going back into, goodness, junior high and high school days, I just wanted, it was just in me. Like I just wanted a certain level of independence and I wanted a certain level of freedom that could only really be had, if you begin creating something. So it was just in me at a young age.
Yeah, well, it's like for me at a young age, I always dream. What do you think is the difference between dreaming and actually, living? Like
Yeah.
for example, I always dreamed to have $1 million in my pocket. I always dreamed about having, the life of Hugh Hefner.
Hmm.
But what do you think is the difference psychology wise for people like me against people like you or somebody who actually goes out and achieves those goals? I know what
Yeah.
my problem is. I know why I didn't achieve my goals. What do you think is the difference between somebody like me and the difference between somebody like you?
Well, I was just having this conversation, and um, I think one of my strengths is that, like, I fall in love with the boring stuff, and the boring stuff typically those are the things that really get you over the hump. Like, it's a lot of excitement and a lot of flash and a lot of Hollywood type vibe from doing certain tasks in business. But then the main functions of the business, it's kind of boring. Like, especially, when you start talking about, developing apps and stuff like that. But I fall in love with that boring part. And I'm okay with, being quiet, and I'm okay with, just being set away in a room and just tinkering. So I think a lot of it is having a curiosity type mindset and kind of like being a scientist and just kind of like tinkering and figuring stuff out. And I also think it's about where you get your satisfaction from. Like, my satisfaction comes from figuring something out, and working through the boredom of it to get it done. Some people's satisfaction, they're more extroverts, but you could do it anyway. Just understanding who you are, and then understanding how to kind of like finesse yourself. I guess, like how to, um, like if you look at it like sports, right? It's like you got some quarterbacks that are like Lamar Jackson, you got some that are like Tom Brady. The job of the coach is to figure out how to get the most out of each one of those players. You got to be your own coach. Typically in entrepreneurism, and in business, and it's understanding your psychology and kind of how to get the most out of yourself. So if
Uh,
you're
you
really to kind of commit to that and grab some mentors and read some books and stuff like that, you can get over that.
Now you created an app called Lyft, or that's a company that you was hired on to, right?
Yeah, yep. So Lyft, of course, definitely not my company, ride sharing app. Um, but I was recruited into the company to help with the Atlanta operations, gearing up for the IPO that was had not too long ago. Just before the Super Bowl was here in Atlanta, we got busy working to get some market share up versus Uber.
Now, how did you make tens of millions of dollars for that company with no college degree?
Yeah, so before that, my background was in stone cold sales.
Mhm.
And then, of course, I parlayed through sales and sales leadership for other national companies, driving the same thing. I mean, some of the companies plus 20 mil, some, 10, 12, 14, that's annually. And then by the time I got to Lyft, I had already done a lot in the tech side of things as it related to outreach and recruitment. So my job was to get inventory up. So drivers, we needed to get that inventory up because we couldn't. So it's like a balancing act, right? Like with the ride sharing platform, it's a platform, it's dual sided. You got to have enough drivers, you got to have enough riders. In Atlanta, you could request an Uber and it'd be to you in a couple minutes. At the time that we pushed in with Lyft, you could request a Lyft and it'd be 15, 20 minutes out. Well, of course, people are going to go with Uber because they want the quicker ride. With Lyft, the idea was we need to get enough drivers up in the market so that we could start to get more riders. So the more drivers we got up, the more riders. So my job was to get the driver side of things up. So we put together different campaigns, really like guerrilla marketing. And we drove that acquisition of drivers to record-setting numbers. Once we got that up, then we could get more riders, and we just really exploded out the gate and turned Atlanta into one of the number one markets here for Lyft.
Now, are you from Atlanta, or where exactly are you from?
I'm from Detroit originally. I'm from Detroit. Yeah, yeah, man.
Damn, you made it out.
Hey, yeah.
Congratulations.
Thanks, man. Thanks. But I lived all over. I worked for several companies. I lived in a bunch of hotels and stuff like that. I mean, I lived in Tennessee. I lived in Chicago, nearly Wisconsin. I lived in Atlanta. So I got some experience in different areas.
That does lead me to an interesting question. My father, I like to use my father as an example of this because he's the only person I really know. I know a lot of people from different parts of the country. Uh, my father, born in Puerto Rico, was raised in Spanish Harlem, New York.
Okay.
But if you listen to him, his home is Alabama. You know,
Okay.
he
Okay.
he won't talk about Puerto Rico. He won't talk about New York. His home. He's been. If you really think about it, his home. He's lived in Alabama majority of his life.
Yeah.
From 18, he went to Vietnam and came down to Alabama and he's been here ever since.
Wow.
With that said, you know, to me, I always think about like my history, the culture shock that it was probably for a young Hispanic male from New York to come down to Alabama and see, but he fit in very. I mean, if you know Angel, he fit in pretty good. But for you personally, from Detroit, and then go to somewhere like Tennessee
Hmm.
or Atlanta, how
Yeah.
much of a culture shock was that for you?
That is a great question. Actually, that's one of those questions that I probably don't get asked a lot of, but I think it was like the making of my mindset. Um, when I was in Detroit, I mean, going straight into the workforce, I mean, I worked with a lot of different people, but mainly white people. Um, and I had my challenges, as a young man, being in a performance-based business, and it created some real challenges in terms of culture shock. But I don't think I've ever been as culturally shocked as I was at a young man. As a young man, young black guy, 18 years old, high school degree, coming into a career force where the average person was probably making, I'd say like $40,000 a year or so, and I'm climbing that chart and earning 50,000 or so at that age, and then getting up. By the time I hit 22, I was over six figures a year. Um, that really shaped my ability to work within any climate. So Yeah, big culture shock, but I got that at a young age. By the time I was into my deep 20s, I was pretty smooth because I, you know, there was a lot of stuff that I kind of committed myself to, like Stephen Covey, the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and understanding to seek first to understand and be understood, and these different managerial principles that helps take you into the shoes and the mindsets of other people so that you can understand them, and kind of know how to love them, no matter what their race is and whatnot. So when I got to the opportunity to go into Tennessee, I think I'm 38 now. That was maybe when I was about, I want to say maybe about 33 or so, when I started working in the Tennessee area. And let me tell you something, man. There were maybe a couple Black people in that area. And then I got the opportunity to work in Atlanta, of course, many more Black people. And then I worked on the north side of Atlanta, which was mostly white people. And then I worked in Chicago and Wisconsin. And when I was in Wisconsin, basically northern Chicago, Vernon Hills area, it was about a mile away from Kenosha, Wisconsin, I guess you could say. I might have saw a Black person every 3 weeks. And that was by happenstance. Maybe they were passing through doing some work or something, but I never saw a Black family. But I just love people, man. I mean, no matter what, no matter the race, the culture, I just always felt like I could learn something from someone else's culture.
Detroit to Atlanta. I mean, how good have you adapted?
So Detroit is a big city too. Detroit is much more segregated. Atlanta is the first city I lived in where I felt like it was made for Black people.
Really? How so?
Man, I mean, from the places that you go, you go to a restaurant and the music is kind of like country pop.
Hmm.
Well, you go to a restaurant in Atlanta, it's hip hop. You know what I mean? I'm sorry, you go to a restaurant in Atlanta, it's hip hop. It's the comfortability level of going into the average place in Atlanta for a Black person is super high because it's made for us.
Oh,
You know,
I
um,
guess I never seen that because I've been
yeah,
to Atlanta's somewhere I've been to. I guess I'm not going to the right places because I mean you know as a young man you'll check out the Cheetah Lounge. Shout out
hmm
to everybody who's worked at the Cheetah Lounge.
yeah,
Then you got the NCAA Football Hall of Fame. You got ESPN Zone. You got
yeah.
but my in 2010, my wife and I we checked out an event at the Phillips Arena and we stayed the night.
Shout out to the State Farm Arena now. They renamed it.
Oh yes, I'm sorry. It'll always be the Phillips Arena to me, but
Yeah,
whatever.
facts.
Uh but yeah, so we stayed at the Omni and we went to this jazz club. And
hmm
you was talking about it was mostly African American and everything. But it was a mixture. You could tell it was a high class place, even though
hmm
it was jazz but everybody was wearing a suit. Of course, this young man here, he came correct, but he wasn't wearing a suit or anything. Yeah, but we
What'd you
was
have
out
on,
there.
man? What'd you
Oh,
have on?
back then, man, it was nothing for me. On a serious tip, it was nothing for me to have my outfit to be $1,000
Oh
tops.
yeah, smooth.
Now, Walmart. That's what happened. That's the difference between being a young single man
Yeah.
and being an old fat parent in
Oh
Alabama.
man.
It's
Yeah.
like they get all the nice stuff. Like I didn't own my first pair of Jordans till I was out of high school,
Yeah.
and it wasn't like the Jordans of like the how every year back
Like the
when we
like,
grew
like
up.
the like the retros.
Yeah,
It
the
wasn't the
retros, what they
retros.
call the retros now for us,
Mm.
96, 97, 98. They kids, if you watch them, which I don't think you are, but every year Jordans came out one shoe a year.
hmm
And by the time I got to high school in 2001, that's when Jordan started spanning more shoes. He'll have more. And my first pair of shoes was just these tall hair white and blue Jordans, and those were my first Jordans ever, and my last pair of Jordans. Because after a while, I stopped playing basketball, so there was no point wearing Jordans, and my style changed. So going from wearing clothes that probably were fitting the Jordans, then I started wearing, for tennis shoes, I started wearing like white K-Swisses, because I'll usually have something that be more appropriate for K-Swiss, just because you didn't have to wear dress shoes.
Yeah.
But for me, I didn't have a suit on or anything, but damn it, I came correct. And we danced all night, we drank the night away, and then we went. It was funny because my wife would tell you the story. We was there for a wrestling event because I'm a big I probably calmed down a little bit now, but for me, boxing, wrestling, football was like religion for me, especially during that time.
Contact sports.
Yeah, like the NBA back in the '90s. Hell, me and you could sit there and talk basketball today. I won't even know what you're talking about, but back in the '90s, no, you can't school me on the knowledge of like '80s and '90s basketball. I mean, I could tell you what lineup. I could tell you every player that played from. Like people throw out names like Luke Longley. Who's Luke Longley? Yeah. Okay. Who's Ronnie Brown? Like who's Judd Bushler? Bill Burton. People won't even know who Steve Kerr was.
Wow.
Before the Warriors, but the Rockets, the Kings, I stopped watching. I think around when Shaq got traded to the Heat, not just because I was mad about it. It's just after the riot in Detroit or Indiana, with Detroit and Indiana, I kind of just lost taste of it, and I was just like,
yeah, that was a bad year for the NBA.
Yeah, it wasn't. I don't think it was really that reason why I lost. It's just the game has changed, and it's just I kind of just lost favorite. I probably snuck into it every once in a while and get when the Bulls and Celtics were having their like best out of 7 series, and against Kevin Garnett, but anyway, I lost. But boxing, wrestling, anyway, we get back to the hotel room. And we was there for a wrestling event. And you got to imagine you had this beautiful young lady going back to the hotel room with. And, of course, I see these bunch of kids, my probably a little older than me, maybe some a little younger than me. But they were showing off. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. They're in the lobby of the hotel room with professional wrestling belts. And, of course, I bought my little wrestling belt toy. And I was like, instead of going home and making love to this sweet, beautiful woman, what does this douchebag do? He says, "Can I go play with these wrestling fans in the lobby?" Yeah, that's the difference between the young me and the me now. I would just go to the hotel. Yeah.
How old was you?
I was 27, maybe.
27, okay.
Yeah. Old enough to know better.
Yeah.
But young enough not to.
Yeah.
You got a whole squad. You got 6 daughters.
6 daughters, man. Yeah. So I started young and I ain't stopped. I mean, so my oldest is 20, and then I have an 18-year-old, I have a 17-year-old, and I have a 16-year-old, which she'll be 16. So I have a 10-year-old, I have a 3-year-old, and yeah, man, it's really probably at the foundation of why I work so hard. But I'm 38 now, man. So I hope I can slow down just a little bit on, how hard I do work by the time I'm 40. We'll see about that.
But don't slow down. Don't slow down. But let me ask you, but everything you learned, you've been self-taught. Yeah. So how was it to be a self-taught app and web developer?
Yeah. So it definitely was a challenge, but it was one of those passion things. I'm from the school of like anything that's going to be your fastball, which means like, listen, if this is what you do in business, if you're in tech, you definitely need to know the tech. You know what I mean? And this is just my belief, right? Like let's say, for instance, I was a music producer. If I'm a music producer, I definitely want to know how to play the piano, right? I definitely want to know how to play the drums. And I don't have to be a rock star at all of them, but I want to know them well enough to do it. So in tech, and pushing more into the business development side through technology, through apps and websites, I want to know how to do that. So I didn't want to go to school for it because I didn't want to follow anybody else's structure. I wanted to be able to go as I needed it and pick it up as I needed it. Basically, I call it query-based learning. It's the equivalent of when you need to know something, Google it, versus going to a structured school where you pick up a whole lot of stuff that you don't necessarily need to know, like physics. So I wanted to just go at it, and I did, and I picked up some strong skills, and I know it well enough to lead it and do it myself, but I still work within a large contractor group that gets a lot of stuff done for us.
And now, see, what's so impressive, see, when I was 22 years old, the only thing I was thinking about was, I don't even remember what I was thinking about at 22, but I know it wasn't about making six figures. I mean, you made your first six figures at 22 years old. My question to you is, what is your advice to these young cats coming up right now? No matter what political standings you are, what matter what race you are, what religion, it seems to me today society is telling people that you can't do something because of
Hmm.
your religion, because of your race, because
Hmm.
of your politics. What is your advice to people right now who's saying, to the people listening to the stuff you listen to on the news, the stuff you're
Hmm.
listening to on music and celebrities? They're telling you that you can't do it because of whatever reason. What's your
Hmm.
advice to these people right now who feel like they can't make it?
Oh man. First of all, it's all for you. I mean, the internet was created for you. You know, you jump on sites like Udemy, or it used to be like Lynda, which was bought by Microsoft, and LinkedIn. That's made for you. The libraries are made for you. Books are made for you. So if you couldn't do it, why would they make it for you? It comes back to your desires. My desires when I was young was to have a big family, man. And I wasn't just becoming a father just for the sake of, wanting to have some kids. My desire was to be a father and make a contribution and love and pass love and spread love, and be love. But one of the things that I noticed is that you got some enemies fighting against that, like money. You got to have
Yeah.
some money. You got to be able to earn. Um, and a lot of my time was being taken away from me, and I wasn't in control of my time because I needed to earn. So that means that if I wanted to hit them six figures or whatnot, I needed to be able to work a certain schedule, and holidays and weekends, and all that type of stuff. And I decided that it's another option, and the other option was to strike out, independently. And I had to assess the risk and try to do as best as I could, but ultimately just go for it. And it's taken a long time to pay off. I will say that for sure. It has not been easy. It hasn't been easy on my family. It hasn't been easy on my daughters. I have not been as available as I want to be for them. But I also understand that I got to think into future generations. Meaning, if I wasn't handed certain stuff coming up as a kid, and seed it out right, meaning, I didn't have someone buying a house for me when I said that I was getting married. I didn't have someone buying furniture for me and putting together nest eggs in that way. I needed to look deeper into generations. So I'm looking at not only being a fantastic father, but I think I'm going to be a better grandfather than I am father, just because I'm going to be more available. So I've always been super accessible by my children, but because I've worked so hard and so deep, I have not always been available as I want to be for them. But the desire's got to be there. You got to know what you want to do. You got to know that I'm doing this for my last name, not my first name. I'm doing this for my grandkids. You know what I mean? Because I want my kids to have a better life, a better start than I had when they hit adulthood, etc. So
So
that's always been running deep in me.
let's get to the bread and butter.
Hmm.
Black for local. This
Yeah.
is a new thing that is coming out.
Yeah.
I suggest everybody who has a smartphone or a iPhone, black or
Hmm.
white,
Yeah.
I think you need to go out there and support this man because he's doing something. He's doing something a lot of people don't have. They're talking a lot of trash. They're talking all that good stuff, but they're not putting their money where their mouth is. And this young man is just definitely. I shouldn't say young man. He's the same age as me, but with that said, and we're
Well,
not
we in
young
the
no
best
more.
shape, but we in the best shape of our life.
Oh man, I'm in the worst shape of my life. You speak for yourself.
Hey, look,
Man,
hey, look, I could definitely afford to drop some pounds, man. But one thing that I wouldn't trade is the wisdom that I've learned. You know, one thing you can do, you can get in that gym and you can drop the pounds quick, but you can't pick up wisdom fast. That's why I say we're in the best shape of our life.
I need some of that wisdom. So tell us more about Black for Local.
Yeah, yeah. So BLAKFUL LOCAL is the first app to come out that's going to strongly compete against the more popular apps out there to help you find stuff around you. And when I say around you, I mean local businesses, whether it be restaurants or services. We're starting with restaurants, but we're driving into all local business sectors. Um, it's all about racially inclusive. It's all about Black-owned businesses. Now, listen, it's like the Black card when American Express dropped the Black card, or when Visa picked up on a Black card. Like BLAKFUL LOCAL is starting with Black-owned businesses because these are the businesses that are the hardest hit, especially right now with COVID. You know, predictions of over 40% of Black-owned businesses will be out of business. You know, we can look at statistics like just 12% of the businesses that are Black-owned have been able to qualify for many of these COVID rescue loans, where you got enormous amount of white-owned businesses that qualify that actually obtain the COVID money to be able to rescue their businesses. So you got a lot of systematic situations happening. You got a lot of systematic inequalities throughout all of these loan programs and just business in general. So we're coming out with the rescue to Black-owned businesses. And as we raise that ship, then we look to help racially inclusive businesses and people of color businesses all over. So we want to be able to help you connect to these businesses easily in a beautiful app that have the premium features that you love from the other apps that you currently use. Um, so that's coming out soon, and we'll have actually some special links that I'm gonna shoot over to you, so you to throw in for you to throw in the show notes to bring the audience into the feedback community and try features out and upvote ideas and stuff like that before it goes public. So we'll be able to get that feedback directly to us.
Oh, I mean, most definitely. I mean, I think as an American, everybody should try to like right now. You got this man right here trying to make a difference. Uh, you're definitely somebody that in the future I definitely want to help support. You know, just backing. Uh, I mean, look at what you're doing right now. You see a problem and you're going out and trying to fix it. And a lot of Americans right now are not trying to do that. You know, the time of this recording, we just, we have a lot of turmoil. And if people, look at 2020, the murder of George Floyd, and I still say it's a murder. I know, look, I'm as a conservative and as a Republican, you know, some of this stuff has taken political turns, but as somebody who's handcuffed many people, I know how he died, and somebody who suffered from panic attacks, and that's why the George Floyd case is a little hard for me because I know when you're suffering from a panic attack, I know it's probably from some drugs. I understand that, but to suffer from a panic attack and then tell the cop you're dying and then get a knee stuck to your neck, it's a murder. You can spin it any way you want to. So with that turmoil, and then right now, the time this is recording, the Capitol in Bun Rush, it's as Americans, right? We need more people like Rafael who's out there trying to, instead of doing stupid shit, And when you get a person like Rafael who's actually trying to make a difference, we as Americans should try to support him as much as possible. Because when I sit there and look at you face to face, man to man, I ask myself, what the hell am I doing? What am I doing trying to make a difference? I'm doing nothing. What are you doing? What are you doing right now? Are you looking in the mirror right now? What are you doing? Are you trying to do anything to make a difference? So yeah, you definitely got my support and you definitely got my respect.
Well, I appreciate that, man. From the bottom of my heart, I believe that is more love than it is hate.
Oh, most definitely.
You
But
know,
you can't tell that these days. This has been an ongoing problem for the last 40 years.
yeah.
Love doesn't sell commercials. You know, is the reason why we got CNN is because, hey, no matter what news network you watch, you can watch Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, C-SPAN, whatever is the reason why Court TV is a big one. Is the reason why Court TV only talks about murders and everything. It's because that's what we're watching.
Mhm.
Maybe we had a little more news about love and helping out. Maybe the world would be a better place. Maybe this country would be a better place. Maybe we have more people like Raphael's putting his money where his mouth is, his knowledge where his knowledge where it needs to be. Maybe this world would be a better place. But
Yeah.
hey,
And you know what, man? We got a strong calling on all of us. You got that microphone, I got this microphone, and we all got our mouthpiece where we can talk to our families and our friends, and we can spread truth. You know what I mean? Not alternative facts. You know what I mean? Not fake news. We can spread truth, and we can, like as I said, fighting back against the culture shock as a young man. Seeking first to understand, then to be understood, and easily stepping into other people's shoes and being flexible to be able to understand where other people are coming from. Because even when I set out on this journey here, all I knew is that I wanted to help. You know, I just knew that I wanted to help Black owned business. I asked myself, well, is it any other apps out there that's doing it, that's trying it? And if so, are they doing it? And are they succeeding or are they failing? And bigger than understanding what technology we wanted to develop, we had to go through an understanding curve of how come some of these apps are not succeeding and what are the failures that they're experiencing and how come they're not getting out there like some of the competitors like Yelp and stuff like that. So we had to go through that whole understanding, man. I think love and understanding is so essential to living a quality and a balanced life, and even being a father. You got to be able to do that. And one of the things that I talk to my friends often, I say, listen, why is it that you treat your family better and you have more patience for your family than you do for strangers? And most of the time, what they say is, well, because I love them. I say, well, don't you think that stranger is a person as well? And why is it so difficult to extend them love? And most of the time it's because they don't know them, because they don't understand them. And I say, listen, the bottom line is we are all people. We all in this together. So when we start talking about, um, you know, listen, these Black business owners, man, they got their mortgage tied up in their business. So if that business fails, they lose their mortgage, they lose their home. Where does that put the family at? Right. And we're talking about not because people are not buying food. They're not losing because people are not buying food. They're losing because people can't get to them. So we got to spread awareness. We got to make it easier for people to find them, so that we can help shift what's happening economically in our communities. Because what happens down in Atlanta, in the West Side area, downtown, Bankhead, affects Sandy Springs and Alpharetta, and these are all northern suburbs to Atlanta. But we all are one. So we got to make sure that we send in those fire trucks where they need to be. And then after those fires get put out, then we can reroute them to the ones that need it as well. So that's all we're trying to do, man. Is just help out.
I maybe maybe I want to maybe I want to eat some soul food, which down here in Alabama we call it country food or food, which is so
I need some food.
I never even heard the phrase soul food till the movie came out.
Yeah,
And now everybody's calling it soul food. Like down here in Alabama, that's food.
that's it.
Yeah. It's like, if we made the Alabama version of that movie, it would be called food.
Facts.
Period.
It's what we eat.
Yeah, what we eat. Only in other states that's soul food. And be honest with you, at one time we used to call it country food. Cornbread
Yeah.
and that.
I went
Like,
to Philly for the first time over the summer. And what my man was telling me is like, listen, man, whatever you do, when you go in this restaurant, you want to order your steak and cheese. Don't tell them that you want a Philly steak and cheese. I said, why? I say, because it ain't no, he say, it's only Philly steak and cheese when you in Atlanta or when you outside of Philly. When you in Philly,
yeah.
you just want you a steak and cheese sandwich.
Yeah, and don't come down to Alabama talking about you want soul food or country people food. Just say what you want on your plate.
That's it. Listen, when they come into the community, not only are we collecting that feedback, but we got some special coupons to go to your local business, man. And, maybe you might get a buy one, get one free. Maybe you might get some free sides. Maybe you might get some beverages. We're working with these businesses to bring some fantastic perks to your listeners. So we got you covered on that too.
Hey, I have nothing but thank yous for free food.
Absolutely.
I'll take free food anytime I can get it.
That's it.
With that said, Rafael, you got anything else you want to plug?
Hey, man, I just appreciate you, man. Listen, we want to take this app all over the US, Canada, and the UK. We need as much feedback as possible. So everybody listening, please hit the show notes, hit the link, jump into our community. You'll be able to try out features and upvote ideas and stuff like that right as we're making them and really make a big difference that way. You'll also get special perks and coupons and stuff like that. Just make sure you're listening, and then also you jump into those show notes because we got some special links, compliments of CTS and BLAKFUL to make your life better and that's make a difference in our communities.
Well, you heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. He's talking about it's an honor for him to be on here, man. Anytime I meet somebody who has the mind for a business and has the mind to make money, he's somebody I want to talk to. So humbly, the pleasure was all mine. The honor was all mine. And I humbly mean this, man. I hope you, in about another couple of years, them 6 figures will turn into 7 figures. And I'm going to call you up and ask for about $20 or $30.
That's
well,
it,
hell,
man.
if you're making that much money, I'm $20,000, $30,000.
Man, I'm going to pull up on you, man. We're going to eat some of that good food in Birmingham, man. That's what we're going to do.
I hear you on that. Hey, you don't want to test me out on that now.
Come on now.
Hey, I got hypertension, but damn it, I don't care. When I get to a buffet, it's on.
Hey, man, listen, ain't nothing wrong with putting something away.
Hey, we're getting up in age now, man. Hypertension is something serious.
That's true.
It's been nothing. It was nothing for me to hit my blood pressure to 240 over 190.
Woo.
So I had to pay a little close attention than I used to, But when I do get to a buffet, I got my blood pressure pills right there next to me.
That's it. We'll go heavier on the greens and the sides, and we'll sprinkle in.
Oh, this is the South. You can't. The vegetables are not as healthy. See, that's the thing. And here in the South, I don't care. We don't do bagels.
You say they ain't sprinkling. They ain't just doing a dab of seasoning on them.
No. That's greasing that in.
Okay.
Yeah. Hell, like go to New York and try to order a sausage biscuit. Not gonna happen. They're gonna look at you like, you want a biscuit with sausages? Like, who is this guy? But yeah. I mean, go to any of these big cities. Like I was surprised to me, like. When you go to these country restaurants, like I'm not advertising, but Cracker Barrel, Longhorn, these southern restaurants, and you like up in New York and Jersey, you can get sweet tea. A lot of people think you can't get sweet tea nowhere but the South. That's not true. Go to these southern-based restaurants up north, and all you gotta do is say sweet tea. And you get the sweet tea. But if you go to a regular diner in New York and try to order sweet tea, then they're gonna look at you like you're funny. Yeah, go to Alaska and try to order sweet tea.
Ain't happening.
No, it's not happening. Do you mean you want me to put sugar in your tea? With that said, everybody else, Rafael, stay on the line. Everybody else, see you next Sunday.